Welcome, everyone, to the Apoco-Larry podcast. I'm Steve. He is
Larry. I just don't know this well enough to throw out the doctor. I feel we'll see what I know as we go through this. But I got to tell you, Steve, there's times I feel like this is the first time I ever read this book. You know, when I'm going through it, it's like, where's the background and stuff that I thought was wrong. And yet I do know that Ezra is a critical moment in history. This priest Ezra, and the stuff that he did was so important that the intertestamental writers, the people of that wrote books in the Second Temple period, they wrote pseudepigraphic books, which meant they had false authorships.
right.
Yeah, or it meant that they were false pigs. They weren't really pigs. Maybe that was it.
Pseudepigrapha.
Pseudopig.
Oh, yeah, I see what you did there. I see what you did there. Yeah, nice, nice. Well done.
I don't feel like we can eat reformed ham because why are we eating them after they get their lives together? Do you remember that?
That's right.
I can't remember which comedian did that one. But the pseudepigraphic literature they wrote stuff in the intertestamental period, and they ascribed it to people before the time of Ezra, and and Ezra was the cutoff, and so it would be like the Testament of Moses and the Book of Enoch, the Testament of Moses, the 12 Patriarchs, and these kind of books.
Which, by the way, is a series of literature you know quite a bit about. Come to think of it, so.
Well, I did work in it anyway, so I to somebody who knows nothing, I know quite a bit.
Yeah.
But to Craig Evans.
well, he's not here, and I don't care.
That's right. But some of those guys, they were brilliant, but they also loved this, and they spent a lot of time in it, and I think that makes up for a lot of brilliance as well.
Hours devoted sometimes does make up for brilliance. I will admit to that. Yes.
That's right. Yeah. So anyway, so Ezra is a critically important book. These last two chapters are all about intermarriage, and I'm going to you're going to read them. We're going to talk about them a little bit, but most commentators feel like Ezra did the right thing, except that one Jewish guy that I read who really feels that Ezra ended improperly because they shouldn't have done what he did. Yeah, and I thought, well, let's read it and we can see.
What a lovely way to start that off. Yeah. All right. So, folks, we're going to read Ezra 9 and 10, like Larry said, the last two chapters. For those of you playing the at-home edition, those are the last two chapters of Ezra. And I'll read through with my usual butchering of names because I'm so happy to do that. But let's pick it up at Ezra 9, and I'll read until Larry tells me to stop reading. After these things had been done, the leaders came up to me and said, "The people of Israel, including the priests and the Levites, have not kept themselves separate from the neighboring peoples with their detestable practices, like those of the Canaanites, Hittites, Perizzites, Jebusites, Ammonites, Moabites, Egyptians, Amorites, and Mennonites." Oh, hang on a second. The Mennonites actually are in there. I'm sorry. I read something else in the text. I'm sorry. Forget it. It ends with Amorites. I'm sorry.
Amorites, yes.
Yeah, which, by the way, don't intermarry. But anyway, I digress. Verse 2, they have taken some of their daughters as wives for themselves and their sons, and have mingled the holy race with the peoples around them. And the leaders and officials have led the way in this unfaithfulness. When I heard this, I tore my tunic and cloak, pulled my hair from my head and beard, and sat down appalled. Then everyone who trembled at the words of the God of Israel gathered around me because of this unfaithfulness of the exiles. I sat there appalled until the evening sacrifice. Then at the evening sacrifice, I rose from my self-abasement. Oh, I love that the NIV pulled out self-abasement.
Oh, yeah.
With my tunic and cloak and torn.
What was he doing in the basement?
What is self-abasement? You dig your own basement, I guess. With my tunic and cloak torn, and fell on my knees with my hands spread out to the Lord my God and prayed.
Okay, we'll stop just for a second before we do the prayer.
Sounds good.
It's kind of a weird thing because it sounds like all of a sudden the people came to him after he had done all of this other stuff in the book of Ezra, and he brought forth the law and all that. And they came to him and surprised him with the actions of the people around him. Like, he would have known from the time he got there that they were intermarrying, wouldn't he?
Yeah. Have you seen?
I was shocked to find out.
I do not know. I was talking to my friend. Oh, that's an inside joke. Sorry, folks. Anyway.
Oh yes, our tennis days. But so he said you're doing detestable things like all of these other ones, right? And then this is fair. So when he starts to think about this and the unfaithfulness of his people, then he tears his cloak, pulls the hair from his head and beard. I don't even know how you do that. Maybe waxing. Maybe you do a little wax and then you tear it. Because if you're just grabbing it and tearing it, these guys are tough. They're tougher than us, Steve.
Yes,
they're tougher than us.
They are.
Yeah. Remember, Origen castrated himself with a rock so that he could be more pure. Of course, in his later writings, he said that was a bad idea.
I didn't think that through.
Yeah. Oh, he did not think it through. But then he says, because of the unfaithfulness, this intermarriage, right? Then he sat there with these others. He sat there until the evening sacrifice, and then he arose and he has this prayer to God. So now he's done being upset, and this is sackcloth and ashes kind of stuff, right? I'm upset before God. He actually, you're going to find out too, he fasts for a while too, and doesn't take any fluids. So he honestly is hurt to the core about what he's discovered or what he's finally decided is wrong. Because I don't know how you wouldn't know that this was going on.
Yeah.
Okay, and then he prays.
Okay, so we're just starting verse 6, folks. I am too ashamed and disgraced, my God, to lift up my face to you, because our sins are higher than our heads, and our guilt has reached to the heavens. From the days of our ancestors until now, our guilt has been great. Because of our sins, we and our kings and our priests have been subjected to the sword and captivity, to pillage and humiliation, at the hand of foreign kings, as it is today. But now, for a brief moment, the Lord our God has been gracious in leaving us a remnant and giving us a firm place in his sanctuary. And so our God gives light to our eyes and a little relief in our bondage. Though we are slaves, our God has not forsaken us in our bondage. He has shown us kindness in the sight of the kings of Persia. He has granted us new life to rebuild the house of our God and repair its ruins. And he has given us a wall of protection in Judah and Jerusalem. But now, our God, what can we say after this? For we have forsaken the commands you have gave through your servants, the prophets, when you said, the land you are entering to possess is a land polluted by the corruption of its peoples. By their detestable practices, they have filled it with their impurity from one end to the other. Therefore, do not give your daughters in marriage to their sons, or take your daughters for your sons. Do not seek a treaty of friendship with them at any time, that you may be strong and eat the good things of the land and leave it to your children as an everlasting inheritance.
So just before you carry on, so this is all in his prayer of repentance before God. And now when he said the prophets, right, as the prophets had said, I couldn't find anybody that spoke of a particular prophet that said this. There was a little bit in Isaiah 120 that talks about it. There's also, but Deuteronomy, this is sort of these are the words of Deuteronomy when they're going into the land of Canaan, and he's recounting the law and saying, don't be like these people. Remember?
Right.
We don't do child sacrifices. The story of Abraham taught us that. And we don't act like the people in the land where we're going, and we do not marry in intermarriage. So for the Jewish race, intermarriage was wrong. Now for us, it's not a problem. After the coming of Christ to the Christians, intermarriage wasn't a big deal, but it was part of the Jewish law.
Yeah.
Right. So it was a communal law. It wasn't a universal law. Yeah. So that's kind of important to know that. So when he's saying this is accurate to Judaism. It's not accurate to Christianity.
Yeah. Okay.
And I don't know about modern Jews. I think it's still quite accurate to modern Judaism.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Remember that one guy? He said he had the sex change, and he said, so she said, I was going out with a Jewish guy, and his mother wasn't upset about the sex change. She was upset that I wasn't Jewish. Yeah. And nowadays, of course, that doesn't bother anybody. But this thing happened in the early 80s when this wasn't a thing that happened, right?
I get you.
So,
Yeah.
And so it was kind of interesting. So it's very much a Jewish thing that Jewish people marry Jewish people.
Right.
But not Christian. It's not a Christian thing.
Yeah.
No, that Christians marry Christians is a Christian thing.
Yes.
Sort of, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I better be a little careful how I approach that.
Yeah. No, I know what you meant. No, I knew what you meant.
Yeah. 13. Yes.
So picking it up at 13 now, folks. What has happened to us is a result of our evil deeds and our great guilt. And yet, our God, you have punished us less than our sins deserved, and have given us a remnant like this. Shall we then break our commands again and intermarry with people who commit such detestable practices? Would you not be angry enough with us to destroy us, leaving no remnant or survivor? Lord, the God of Israel, you are righteous. We are left this day as a remnant. We are here before you in our guilt, though it is not because one of us can, though not because, sorry, bear with me. Here we are before you in our guilt, though because of it, not one of us can stand in your presence.
Yeah, and what he's saying here, of course, is because of our sin in the past, we ended up in captivity.
Right.
The Assyrian captivity, the Babylonian captivity, trouble, even if you go beyond earlier than that, trouble with the Philistines, all of these things that happened to the Israelites. He's saying we're still in that now because we still belong to Persia, but we've had a little bit of grace because Persia's allowed us to come back.
Right,
so that's what he's talking about.
Right.
So how can we therefore intermarry? And then we get to chapter 10, the end of the book.
While Ezra was praying and confessing, this is 10 verse 1, weeping and throwing himself down before the house of God, a large crowd of Israelites, men, women, and children gathered around him. They too wept bitterly. Then Shechaniah, the son of Jethiel, one of the descendants of Elam, said to Ezra, we have been unfaithful to our God by marrying foreign women from the peoples around us. But in spite of this, there is still hope for Israel. Now let us make a covenant before our God and send away all these women and their children in accordance with the counsel of my Lord and of those who fear the commands of our God. Let it be done according to the law. Rise up. This matter is in your hands. We will support you. So take courage and do it. So Ezra rose up and put the leading priests and Levites and all Israel under oath to do what had been suggested. And they took the oath. Then Ezra withdrew from before the house of God and went into the room of Johanan, son of Elshib. Yeah, close enough. While he was there, he ate no food and drank no water because he continued to mourn over the unfaithfulness of the exiles. A proclamation was then issued throughout Judah and Jerusalem for all the exiles to assemble in Jerusalem. Anyone who failed to appear within 3 days would forfeit all his property in accordance with the decision of the officials and the elders, and would himself be expelled from the assembly of the exiles.
Amazing, eh?
Yeah.
Not much difference than the way every other country just lords it over their citizens. No individuality. If you don't come, we're taking all your property.
Mm-hmm.
We would be very upset if Trudeau started doing that to us.
Yeah.
And I read people that say that's actually coming, by the way. But those are my conspiracy theory friends
yeah.
and I sometimes I read them and go, man, I hope you guys are wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm not just an idiot not seeing what's going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so that's what they did. They said, look, if you don't come, we're taking your land.
Mm-hmm.
The very thing the Romans did to them later on, and the very thing the Persians did to them earlier on, the Babylonians, and their own people do it to them too. Interesting,
right?
Eh?
Right.
Intriguing.
Yes. There's really nothing new under the sun. Nothing absolutely new under the sun at all.
No, but when you read this, it's not reading as if this is a bad thing. It reads as if it's an okay thing, and that's the weird part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yes. Oh, I'll ask you a question about that at the end. A proclamation was then issued throughout Judah and Jerusalem for all the exiles to assemble in Jerusalem. Anyone who failed to appear, I think I just read this, didn't I?
Yeah, but
Anyone who failed to appear within 3 days would forfeit all his property in accordance with the decision of all of the officials and elders, and would himself be expelled from the assembly of the exiles. Finally, sorry, I've got up now, folks. Within 3 days, all the men of Judah and Benjamin had gathered in Jerusalem. On the 20th day of the 9th month, all the people were sitting in the square before the house of God, greatly distressed by the occasion and because of the rain. It's
Oh yeah,
a mention of
it's
weather all of a sudden.
It's a weird little thing, but it's the rainy season, and that makes them upset as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Then Ezra the
we have
priest.
to leave our wives, and we're getting soaking wet.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I looked at the app. It said it was going to be sunny, and now it's raining. Then Ezra the priest stood up and said to them, "You have been unfaithful. You have married foreign women, adding to Israel's guilt. Now honor the Lord, the God of your ancestors, and do his will. Separate yourselves from the peoples around you and from your foreign wives." The whole assembly responded with a loud voice, "We must do as you say, but there are many people here, and it is the rainy season, so we cannot stand outside." Yeah. Besides, this matter cannot be taken care of in a day or two, because we have sinned greatly in this thing. Let our officials act for the whole assembly. Let everyone in our towns who has married foreign women come at a set time, along with the elders and judges of each town, until the fierce anger of our God in this matter has turned away from us. Only Jonathan, son of Asriel.
Okay, let's stop there just for a second again, because I want to hit that part. Now, notice, Steve, that this is Judah and Benjamin. So when you're doing this piece, the Samaritans have already been excluded. Like those from the Assyrian exile that stayed, they tried to come back and be a part of it. The Israelites tried to become a part of it. But really, this is just Judah. It's not Israel that they're doing all of this stuff with. So my thought is that these people from Judah and Benjamin had come back, and then they too married. Could have been Samaritan people. It could have been Israelite people, or it could have been some of the other Canaanites in the land, or other people, right? But and so then this is the reason I stopped you here, is because it's going to talk about Jonathan and Ashiel, and everybody else felt like this was the appropriate thing to do, and it reads like it was okay, right? Weird that they would go, yeah, it's raining. Let's just leave this for another day. And they go, okay, let's not do it. It's raining. kind of strange. Anyway, so now read 15, because these are the people that said no, but it's just one line.
Only Jonathan, son of Ashiel, and Jaziah, son of Tikva, supported by Meshullam and Shabbathai the Levite, opposed this. Now, were they opposed to this delay, or were they opposed to the whole thing?
Now that you say that, I don't know, but my thought is that what they opposed was the divorcing their wives, because you're fulfilling one, you're breaking one command to fulfill another command.
Yes.
You're breaking the command of staying married, and you're fulfilling this other one. And honestly, if they do this stuff, there's an incredible amount of hardship that comes with this. If you're leaving, like some of the guys are like, oh, this really worked out well. Had a wife for a while, now I can start all over. But for most of them, or for many of them, you think, they're leaving the woman they loved, the children they loved, the lives that they had pulled together. And if they're trying to figure this out, maybe they don't say that they're trying to figure out how to support these people that they're leaving. So they don't even talk about it. So this is probably one of the reasons why that Jewish author that I read said, actually, he felt that what Ezra did here was wrong, and that it was not right. And yet when you read it, it sounds like he did the right thing.
Yeah.
Except this one group of people, this small group of people that opposed them. Yeah.
And well, I think that was my question for you, is this a sense of a sense of them invoking God's name without having without having clear direction from God, other than them holding up these two commands that are in conflict.
Yes. And there is an issue here, isn't there? And we face a very similar issue when now we accept divorce and remarriage, out of hand, so it's not a big issue anymore. But before we accepted divorce and remarriage, when non-Christian people who were divorced and remarried came to the Lord, we had to figure out what to do with them.
Yes.
Because what do you do if they were married and we said you shouldn't be divorced, but now you're remarried, and then there's children involved, and most of our decisions in those days were similar to this. We're the opposite of this. We said you can't break down these marriages once you've got them.
Right.
And it's weird because quite a number of Gentile people are in the lineage of Jesus. Although they did come around to faith, like Ruth. Ruth would be my my quickest example.
Yeah. That's the one that comes to mind too.
Yeah, and Rahab, of course.
Yeah.
Like she's a great example of that, right? She was just a prostitute from that city where the walls fell.
Yes.
What city was that?
I'm going to go. I'll take Jericho for 200, please.
Oh, Jericho. Yeah. Thanks, Steve. Steve.
It's the only time I've been able to answer a question that you've asked, actually.
So anyway, so I don't know whether they did the right thing here or not, but just to know that one of the authors really felt like what they did was actually in opposition to what God was asking them to do when they went back to the land. It's interesting that way.
Yeah.
But I don't know what to do with it. It's one of those dumb things where the guy just tells you what happened.
Yeah.
So
verse 16, folks, and then we've got a whole bunch of names that I'll kind of skip through, but just be warned. So the exiles did as was proposed. Ezra the priest selected men who were family heads, one from each family division, and all of them designated by name. On the first day of the 10th month, they sat down to investigate the cases. By the first day of the first month, they had finished dealing with all the men who had married foreign women. And then go ahead. No, you go.
I was going to say, and then all that it is now is a list of names, which I think are important to read, but they're not important to read for us to read them.
Yeah.
So plus they dealt with those married to foreign women, so they don't tell you what the answer is going to be in each case. Yeah.
And maybe just to note that it actually does last all the way from verse 18 all the way down to verse 44. So there's a number of family heads that are involved all the way down through this.
Yeah, all had married foreign women and some had children.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird story, but it's maybe it's a little bit of encouragement to us that life just is not that easy.
Yeah.
And when you're the leader of something, there's always hard stuff to deal with. But Ezra is a key person in the Bible, so much so that the pseudepigraphic literature put their authorship before the time of Ezra. So this is a very important time.
Yeah.
This is, what did we say it was, around 460 we are now?
Yeah.
Remember they started coming over from Persia in 530-ish, and now we're down to about 460, and the Persians, by the way, they're full on battle with Greece right now, so they've got other things on their minds.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So so these things are able to happen.
Yeah.
Now 460, you're coming. Alexander the Great's going to be coming through pretty soon. He died 323. So I guess that's 100 years. I shouldn't make it sound like it's 3 weeks, but yeah. So anyway, that's it for Ezra.
That's interesting. Well, and you have to admire. Like you said, there might be a few guys who are like, man, I've always wanted to get rid of her anyway. And there might be a few women that was like, man, I am so glad to lose this loser. But the devotion of these people to their God and to what they believed, to be willing to do this, that's no small feat.
Yeah. Yeah, they gave their hands in pledge, it says, and put their wives away. And for their guilt, they presented a ram and a guilt offering. So they really did stuff that the Israelites weren't supposed to do.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think, the hard things that we can be called to. Are we going to be that obedient when we're called to that hard thing too? So.
Yeah. Fortunately, we live in Canada where nothing really happens. But yeah.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong at all. Folks, I hope that gives you some encouragement as you think about, again, like we're saying, these people that are called to something hard, like Larry says, they have to give up their wives and their families and their lives to obey God here. And whether this is what exactly God wanted, or maybe this is not what God wanted, they still did it regardless because they thought it was the right thing to do. And God cares about them being his chosen people. So,
yeah.
But that comes to the conclusion of Ezra. So next week we're going on to something else. Do we want to give them a little preview, or
do we want to do Nehemiah?
Nehemiah. Wow, that's the weirdest way I think I've said that out loud.
We thought he was the shortest guy in the Bible, and then we met Abdul the Shuhite. Oh, that's a terrible old dad joke, isn't it? Yeah. I was saving that for next week. If we
well, we'll
tell it again.
We'll tell it again. So yeah, we're off to Nehemiah because it kind of has a nice little dovetail from Ezra to Nehemiah here, folks. But
it was one book, Steve, and we'll mention that again. So.
Yeah. Oh, that was right. Well played, sir. Yes, it was one book. So, all right, folks. But thank you for joining us for this week. Again, we're so thankful that you come along and listen every week. We do this because we enjoy doing it anyway. We would have done it if there was only one other audience member than what we have right now. We'd still do it because we enjoy doing it. But thanks for coming along for the ride. And we'll see you next week here on the Apoco-Larry podcast.